Welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I am joined today by our guest, Nicole Donaldson. She is the CEO of Centennial Spine and Pain. Nicole, number one, thank you for taking the time to be on this episode of the Business Spotlight. I am excited to learn more about you and your business and the impact that you're having in our community here in Las Vegas. So without further ado, Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you and your business do?
Of course. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Mhm.
I've been in business for almost 30 years now, from clinical to operations and states and national development, and had the opportunity to come to Vegas about 5 years ago and just continue to meet amazing people and still serving in healthcare and operations and loving to speak, build amazing teams, and just embracing anything and everything that I could do to open more doors and to lead a little bit differently, I think,
Mhm.
and to continue just saying yes to any opportunity that comes across my path so that I can continue to be challenged and meet new amazing people and continue growing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being open, uh, the openness because it is having that open mind, right? We want to learn, we want to scale, we want to grow. At the end of the day, it's the impact we're trying to have for the company that we run.
Right.
So that leads to my first question. What do you feel is most misunderstood about your industry?
I think, well, that's a twofold question. When it
Hmm.
comes to healthcare, I think there are a lot of facets that are in healthcare in any arena that often are not part of the big picture, so to speak.
Hmm.
Meaning, at the end of the day, business is business, and there's always a bottom line. And when you add insurance or private pay, whichever arena you're in, you have a number of facets that the consumer typically does not know the full picture of. And
Right.
so there's a lot of hurdles to not only try to strive for a team to be part of that vision, to buy into the outcome, to
Mm.
understand that every piece of the spoke of that wheel contributes to the overall picture. And I think part of reminding individuals and giving the opportunity to bring everybody into that visibility of what the big picture is and giving them the tools and empowering them to make decisions to generate power towards that outcome and drive towards that, regardless of what their arena is, I
Mm.
think has made a huge difference in my teams. The
Yeah.
other is leadership. In
Mm.
healthcare, I think we're in an era now that leadership is a very common buzzword, and we still see a lot of managers and leaders. And I think over the years, I've been asked to shape my leadership to fit different facets and different departments or different corporations. And at the end of the day, I have really enjoyed being in an arena where my individuality and my different leadership style of I'm a roll up my sleeves and involve myself in every department. I'm a big believer that I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I
Right.
love being able to mirror that. While it does make my plate more full than several other folks that may do the similar position, I wouldn't trade it for the world
Mm.
because it gives me that first name basis. It gives me buy in with my team, regardless of what their position is.
Right.
And it gives me buy in and support in every facet. So it's built a level of trust and dependability and reliance on
Hmm.
each other that just may not have been present before. And when we have that, there's nothing that we can't accomplish because we're working together.
Yep. Man, there's so much valuable information that you gave right there, Nicole. Is number one is the empowerment, right? It's
Mhm.
it's it's rewarding them to take those risks and empowering them to be able to be leaders. And then the other one you said was the leadership side, right? You want to empower them to be leaders. And with me in my military background, is I had to learn at a really young age is that is a skill set that has to be taught. I've found even through the business coaching world, right? Like some people are extremely talented and gifted at what they do, but when they get put into a leadership position, if they don't have the right direction or they don't have the right mentorship, sometimes those departments don't thrive as well as, hey, you're really good at this. Why can't you teach them how to do this? And that's something that you just said, right? To echo is it's got to be nurtured, it's got to be mentored, and those are some of your strengths, right? Is to empower those leaders to become better leaders. So I appreciate that insight, and I want to make sure the viewers are really picking up on that. Now, as we talked about a little bit earlier, the business spotlight, Nicole, is to inspire and educate people who are on the cusp of thinking about entrepreneurship, right? So with that said, what inspired you to, to start and get into this business?
I started in healthcare,
Hmm.
my goodness, when I was a teenager finishing nursing school and really was at an impasse. Nursing was not the path I wanted to take, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And I have really grown in this arena just by rolling up my sleeves and trying a lot of different things and opening up several of my own businesses along the way, just learning all the ins and outs that
Hmm.
were applicable to not only growing a business, but something you're passionate about. And then being able to develop those tools and skills and just being committed to the outcome and figuring things out, which is where I thrive. It's allowed me to step into multiple roles over the years and to lead different organizations. And in a lot of ways, it is all entrepreneurial because regardless of what box we're in, I'm a big believer that I don't do well in boxes. I believe there's a million and one ways to generate the outcome. But a lot of times I love the freedom to think outside the box. And I've created that in my companies, and I'm also in positions now to lead that way.
Hmm.
And I find that a lot of my team can mirror that because they can get to the end game, not by my method, but by their own.
Yeah.
It makes it personal. It helps them just shape that. And coming at it so many things from a different perspective, whether it's life or profession, I think that we can change the lens and we can
Hmm.
change the lane, and then we can change new heights and new expectations because so many things, when we look at it differently or when we collaborate with others, we can see it at a different outcome. And then we have a different challenge to aspire to.
Hmm. Yeah, that's spot on right there, right? Is your leadership style is not something that you run into every day, and it's something you've developed over. You just mentioned you've been in the business for over 2 decades, and
Yep.
it's the mentorship you've had and the people that you've seen, create the success, and you just mirrored and fine-tuned because you don't like to be put in that box, right? You wanna color outside the lines, and that's what creates that innovation in companies' growth, right? If you think about like the extremely successful companies, it's just that they are always innovative and they're thinking about new ideas, things that the traditional companies don't think about. And especially in the healthcare industry, right? It is a heavily
You're
regulated
right.
industry, but you can be extremely unique in the approach, in the wow factor, and how you do things, and the customer experience. And that's how you really, really make a name for yourself. Now,
100%.
another question I have is, how do you stay motivated and focused on what your goals are, Nicole?
That's a great question. I am absolutely very driven and very passionate, just in all honesty, about being of service to others.
Mm,
And I just believe when I'm in a state of mind where I can be humble enough to remember my purpose, which that's truly my calling, is to be of service. It's allowed me to take each role or additional role with a different perspective, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, whether it's impacting my teams, whether it's impacting our patients, our residents, their families, or just trying to leave it better than I found it,
mm,
I know that every day is going to present me with challenges. And I just, through prayer and faith and believing in doing something different or better, or knowing that I can walk away each day and know that I impacted somebody's life for the better.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that keeps me driving for the next day and the next, because I believe when we think about in the big scheme of things and we make it a little bit simpler, that's really what it's about. How we use those tools and how we apply them is completely up to us. But
Yeah.
when we focus on the basics, the big stuff just falls into place, and profits align and
Hmm.
bottom lines align, and staff and, reduction of turnover. There's just a million of other things that benefit when we simplify the focus and what our intent is. And it keeps me driving harder every day.
Yeah. When you know your purpose, you know your mission, and you know the value, right? And the impact, that's what does keep people motivated. And something you said is very similar to when people ask me what I do, right, with the coaching stuff, is you talked about the of service mentality, right? In the way I position what I do now is I went from serving my country in the Marine Corps to now serving my community with teaching the business owners how to become efficient and better leaders, right? They are community leaders. They are employing other people, and it's through this journey that inspires us to have a of service mentality. Not a lot of people have that, right? A lot of
Right.
people are in it for many different other reasons, but this is why like-minded people get along, and it's why they empower each other to be better. So I love that answer because it resonated and it hit home for me.
Thank you.
Now, oh, you're welcome. another question I have is, what advice, Nicole, would you give 20-year-old Nicole that was just getting into business?
Don't quit.
Mm,
Just I, I've had several positions over the years, and each one of those, I think I've brought the same commitment to, in the sense that I want to own it.
mm,
And, that's not something I always recognize in others, but I'm someone that, for example, my company here, I asked for my first 60 days. I want to go through every email, every file, every contract, every employee. I want to know everybody by name. I want to be able to say that I can have my hand in every pot of this business and any other business prior. I was very fortunate. I fought hard to get different positions in my career, but I can honestly say many of those, it was just because of perseverance. So then I had to literally walk the walk.
mhm,
And I love that challenge because now I'm going to dig in and I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to find the answer. I'm much more of a figure it out than I am for somebody to tell me,
right.
because I love to take that knowledge. I think we learn more and then we learn about the application. And
Mhm,
a lot of times through trial and error. But when you get it and it starts clicking, and as you get older and it starts working, I think I would have told myself to keep doing what I did. I fought so hard to get to where I am on so many different ways, just as a woman and going after my career and going to school and family and trying to find all those balances. But the one thing that never has changed is just my commitment to figuring it out and
mhm,
owning it and being proud that whether I'm there in 20 years or I'm able to hand the baton off to a replacement, I've always tried to set somebody else up for success and to be able to build them up instead of setting somebody up for failure, whether it's the business, an individual, good, bad, or indifferent. I think there's just different ways we can approach that. And I wouldn't have changed a thing.
mm. I love that advice because that's right there is your why right there is knowing do not give up. You can
Yeah,
see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know the impact you're trying to make, and it's your journey speaks volumes in what you've created, what you have, 2 decades that you've been in business, right? And going through this industry because that industry is not an easy one.
right.
That was one world that I built a successful business around and moved on to the next venture. But I did the healthcare industry for a little bit, right? And then I got into the wealth management. So I totally understand it, and one can say it's a challenging. There's a lot of obstacles, but if you do not give up, you can create success. Um,
100%.
another question I have, because right, we're going to talk about peak valleys and what do you feel first time, like some of the mistakes that first time entrepreneurs make that you would, advice you would shed some light on.
I think you are who you surround yourself with, on a personal and professional level. So I think when I'm in events and I recognize individuals that have the culture or the confidence or the experience, I look at what they're doing. I want to mirror that. I want to know them because I think a lot of we're only as good as what we have and who we have around us.
Mm,
And so I feel that surrounding yourself with the individuals that possess what you're aspiring towards, there's so much to learn, even if just an observation is one of the greatest tools there. And just we got to stick with it.
mhm,
Sometimes it is not easy. Life is not easy. But I think how we go about business explains a lot about who we are professionally and personally. My family and my children all know if you're taking out the trash, I want you to do your very best and be proud of that,
mhm,
all the way to running a company. And I think figuring out the entrepreneurial side outside of business plans and logistics is also kind of figuring out what's going to be your culture. Who are you going to be? What's going to be your intended purpose? What are these foundations? Who are individuals in your community or other business alliances that are doing something similar or aspiring to something that really resonates with you? And then get out of your own way. Introduce
yeah,
yourself,
mhm,
make a connection. And if you get a door shut, that's okay. Find another. But
that's right.
business is not going to be easy. And I think how we overcome those challenges and look past what's on paper is what really determines whether or not you can succeed or not. And regardless of what that outcome is as an entrepreneurial, it's what you put into it and the
Mhm.
knowledge you gain through that process, whether the outcome is what you expected or not, that shapes who you are as a person and what you bring into your next experience. And it may be totally different, but you're going in there with a sound foundation. And that's something that people really look for when it comes to thinking outside the box and being somebody that you consult to take your business to the next level.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a great response. Like there's so much gold in what you just said. And I want to highlight what you said is who you associate with, who you hang, like who your circle of influence, right? Our founder and chairman that runs Action Coach, Brad Sugars, talks about, if you look at the people you associate with, the books you read, and the actions you take, that will determine where your business will be in the next 5 years, right? And
100%.
that echoes what you just said. And those, getting out of your comfort zone and networking and getting to know the right people. If you see success, you follow success, right? And that's so critical in business, because are those people empowering you? Are they giving you the mentorship? Are they giving you the blueprint? Because they already created success. You want to
You're
mimic
right.
and mirror some of that. So hey, you're gonna learn from their trial and error. And that's what pushes us, to continue to do these spotlights, is learning your journey, seeing what it is, how we collaborate with a lot of people we do in the community, right, and other business owners, to empower them to create that circle of, hey, these are the people that I want to associate with. Now, as we get ready to wrap up today's business spotlight, what's the best way for people to connect with you, Nicole, or if they're looking for your guys' product and service, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Oh my goodness. My LinkedIn has all of my information, but in all honesty, I share my cell phone with anybody and everybody.
Hmm.
If I can ever be of service and support somebody, or just be a reference, or just collaboration, there's so many things, and I love meeting new folks. My cell is 702-738-8827. I accept text, I accept calls, and I just love being a part of our community here in Vegas and nationally. Anytime that we can work together and grow, I think we all benefit from that.
Hmm.
And just one more opportunity to be of service, I always want to be available for that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on this episode of the Business Spotlight. I do have one final question, and I'm going to leave this one open to you. What is one question, Nicole, that I did not ask that you wish I did ask?
Oh my goodness. I think what you've asked on motivation, I think future, what do you look to aspire, and what's your end goal? And I think what you do is actually where I'm aligning myself for future. Is just, I think so much of business, we get pulled off task and pulled off vision. It's really a daily reminder that I need to rebuild what my true intention is of being of
Hmm.
service. And coaching and speaking and motivating is where it really resonates in my heart, in my mind. And I think while it's amazing to have goals career wise and entrepreneurial wise, I think it's also important as a woman or as a leader that we still always have that goal of what really just truly speaks to us. And if that opportunity presents itself, remembering to remove the fear and the excuses and take a leap of faith.
Hmm.
And so I currently am working with 3 companies. I don't spend a lot of downtime because I love being of service in any way possible. And I think it's always important to keep dreaming and keep aspiring and remembering to always take that leap of faith and say yes to those opportunities. You never know where it's going to lead you.
100%. That's the way to wrap up the Business Spotlight right there. That was your mic drop answer, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on this episode of the Business Spotlight, Nicole, and I look forward to connecting with you.
I do, you as well. And thank you so much again for today.
Yeah, you're welcome.